Hey everyone, welcome back to Teal Death Do Us Part. I'm Allie Teal.
And I'm Steven.
And we are an interabled couple. We're married. Steven has muscular dystrophy and I do not. And so we talk about all different things that are related to being in an interabled couple or interabled relationship, And today, instead of just talking about our personal experiences or questions or, kind of things like we have in the past, what we're going to do is watch some clips from a Dr. Phil episode where he worked with an interabled couple. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because I've not seen that episode or all the clips. Steven has watched all of the clips available pretty much about this episode. We even tried to find the full episode, but we couldn't. So we have watched and have at our disposal as many clips as we could find so that we could get all of the context and kind of have really as much of the story as possible because we wanted to be fair. We're not just trying to, stir up controversy for no reason. But speaking of that, Dr. Phil says some controversial things, some things that rubbed us both the wrong way. From what I've seen and from what he's told me, he just kind of wasn't cool about it. And this couple definitely had some issues. But I think they're issues that a lot of interabled couples deal with or maybe have dealt with in the past. So I think it's important to talk about it, to look at it, and I think to discuss how this was portrayed to the world, because this was obviously dealt on like public television. And I don't think that was fair either. So we'll talk about it so that you guys don't end up on Dr. Phil, or maybe so that we don't end up on Dr. Phil. Yeah. Right?
No, we have the choice, so we can say no.
Would we say no?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Probably
there you
would.
go. All right, well, anything you want to say before we...
No, I think we should just jump into it.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to watch some backstory clips first from the episode where the couple is talking about like their daily life, their relationship. It's kind of like an introduction to them. So we'll play those now and talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So the first clip we're gonna check out, and if you're listening on podcast, this will be on our YouTube channel under the same name. So if you want to come see those videos, they'll be in our description on our YouTube channel. So yeah, we just want to make sure you're a part of that as well. But this first clip is basically taking us through a day in the life between this couple. The boyfriend in the relationship is a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, and his girlfriend is obviously his caregiver. So we're going to learn kind of how their roles are during the day.
Yep.
Run my fingers through your hair. Straight back. Taking care of Bailey, it's taken more of a toll on our relationship than I thought it would have. This routine, it goes on 7 days a week, 365 days a year. My day typically starts at about 5 a.m. Right when we wake up, we'll hold each other. I'll rub on his head, then I'll get up. Then I cath Bailey, and that means I empty out his bladder, and then I get the bag and I clean it in the bathroom. I'm gonna move this, all right? Getting dressed takes a little bit. I can open up these ones, okay? By this point, Bailey's stomach is really hurting. The only thing that he can get down is a nutritional drink. He'll probably have about one of these a day. When Bailey's taken care of, that's when I'll try to take my me time and I'll go have a cup of coffee. As his caregiver, I'm the one that's responsible for making sure he gets his medicine, one for spasms, one for pain, and nausea.
You pick a beat, then you can add the essence.
Bailey spends most of his day just chilling at the house, playing with his dog. He loves movies. That's the way he distracts himself. All right, let's go. When I'm leaving, I have to make sure that the cath bag is packed, the jelly, the catheters, the bag. I'm letting down the ramp right now. Bailey will roll in. I make sure he's secured. It's very exhausting. It's a lot worse when I feel like I don't have the support and compassion from Bailey. Typically, if Bailey and I have dinner, it'll be at about 6 o'clock. Cooking, it's exhausting.
It's not only her cooking all the food, but it's then her also having to feed both of us.
They have guacamole and stuff in there if you want me to put it on it.
And then clean everything up.
So it's easier just to make a ham sandwich. By about 8:30, we're both pretty spent, and that starts the process of getting him in bed. I pick him up, get him in bed, I'll undress him, position him, and I try to at least kiss him goodnight. But there are some nights where we just get on each other's nerves, and I'm just like, you know what? I love you. Taking care of Bailey has definitely taken a toll. I haven't had a full night's sleep in 3 years.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna pause it there for a second. You got some thoughts you want to share?
For me, what that did is flew up a red flag that says that her expectations her expectations for what she thought she was getting into were not correct. That tells me that what she does now in the relationship is not what she planned on doing when she first got in the relationship. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so surprised at how exhausted she is and how hard it is. And I think that's what frustrates me, I guess, is either there was a clear lack of communication where they didn't talk about his actual needs and what was going to be required of her when she said, I'll be your caregiver, or she did know and now she's just kind of be rotten about it, which I'm going to assume is not the case. I'm going to assume that she's not being just a cruddy person. But that just, for me, I wanted to talk about this clip because it highlights that need for communication and for clear expectations and just expressing your needs early on in the relationship with someone who is paralyzed or has a handicap or disability that's physical that you're going to have to help them with early on. And in this episode or in the other clips, or maybe it's in this clip, she knew when she first started dating him that he was this way. So she knew from the start, this wasn't a secret, that he needed care all the time. So I think that if you're going into a situation like this, or even if you're already in a relationship where you're having to care for someone, if things are not jiving, take an intentional break and sit down and talk about what your needs are and what you expect from each other. And like she mentioned in the clip, it's hard when she doesn't have the support. And I think she means emotional support from the boy or the guy. And that's something that you and I have had to say where if I feel emotionally drained or I'm doing a lot for you and don't feel like I'm getting a lot back, I have had to say, I really just need you to say thank you one more time, or I really need you to just acknowledge that I'm doing a lot. And not that you don't, but I think especially if I may be a little stereotypical, I think women, oftentimes we do need to hear it more, just in general, that we're appreciated or saying thank you, things like that. And I think it's okay to say that to your spouse or to your boyfriend or girlfriend and say, hey, I just need you to say those words more. And for me, that is one of my love languages. If you've read that, or if you know what that is words of affirmation. And I've had to learn to be very clear in saying, hey, I need you to actually say it out loud, to give me that. And he's had to be very clear with me of, I actually need you to do these things for me, or I don't want you to do these things for me. And that's alleviated. I don't think we have resentment or have ever had resentment for each other, but I think that's alleviated tension that can lead to resentment, which this couple, clearly, they have resentment for each other.
I think we learned later on that this was not meant to happen at first. I'll just preface that she wasn't expected to be his caregiver at first.
Oh.
But with that being said,
yeah,
they explained in the episode, in some background stuff, that she met him on Tinder.
Right.
Or some.
They didn't swipe right on him.
She said swipe right, so I'm assuming Tinder. So she knew he was in a wheelchair. So
right.
She's obviously not a bad person because she decided
I don't think
to
that
still
at
date.
all. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying you said that. I'm saying she clearly she didn't care about all that, but clearly something happened. Like you said, there was a breakdown in communication and something has not been talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we learned a little bit more about that, but I guess we can just jump right back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if you knew then that you were going to hit this rust spot here where you were frustrated, exhausted, felt unappreciated, worried, and being called names, spit on, all the things that happen when there's frustration, you would still have moved forward.
I would have moved forward. I would have gotten better help, better guidelines.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you say that he is extremely angry all the time.
Extremely.
At you, or just at his situation, circumstance,
He
what?
is angry at everything, his situation, me, the people that have claims to be in his life. He's been angry with his family. He's just angry.
One of my areas of specialization when I did practice was in what's called behavioral medicine, which had a lot to do with chronic disease management. And my specialty within that was brain and central nervous system. So I've dealt with this kind of situation a lot. And I'm guessing that he feels like he's a huge burden and that everybody in his life would be better off if he wasn't there. Not so much that he would be better off if he was dead, but everybody else would be better off if he was just gone.
He hates himself so much. He has told me he wants me to help him go into a nursing home.
Is there a part of you that would feel really guilty leaving him?
Of course, I would feel, very guilty leaving him. But Bailey and I have talked about that. He has made very clear, do not stick around just to take care of me. Do not stick around just so I don't go into a nursing home or so I don't die. If you want to leave, you go. And I have told him, when I am ready to go, I will go.
But that's just words. You don't really feel that way, do you? You feel like if you would leave, that you would be selfish, hedonistic, you would feel like you had betrayed him and let him down.
100%.
All right. So there's that first one.
Yeah. So one thing when I was watching this with Steven the first time, that's tricky, I think, for people in interabled relationships, because even if you break up for like normal relationship reasons, because that's the thing with interabled relationships, it's still a normal relationship just with an added twist or like flair, if you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're still just two people like dealing with people stuff and people issues. So like, say the handicapped person cheats on the other person, like if Steven, I'm just put it on us, for example, if he cheated on me 5 times with 5 random women and I left, even though that's a valid reason for me to walk away, it would still come back on me that, oh, I can't believe you left him. Like, you left the disabled person. Like, I can't believe you. And I would feel guilty, even if I had a good reason or wanted to leave him, which I do not. Like, let me clarify. Like, he's stuck with me forever. But even if I wanted to leave and had a good reason, I would still feel guilty leaving you, because I would feel like not only would our relationship be over, but you would then be without care. And that's just an extra, I don't like to use the word burden, but it is an extra something to consider, when you're ending that kind of relationship. And that sucks. And that's not fair for people who want to leave and they feel stuck.
Not.
However, it's that you feel stuck. You're not actually stuck. And you have to get to a point, I think, when you're in an interabled relationship where you kind of just have to not care what other people think about how you are in your relationship. Or if the relationship ends, you just kind of have to not listen to people, because they don't know. They don't know why you left or why things didn't work. But don't ever feel stuck and don't feel guilty. I think it's the same when someone has mental health issues, who's depressed or suicidal. You feel like you're stuck in that relationship because you don't want them to harm themselves. And while that may be true, that they may threaten those things or be more inclined to harm themselves when you leave, that's still not fair to you. And you shouldn't stay unhappy or hurt or in like a just a harmful relationship just because you are worried about someone else. Now, I'm not saying disregard the other person's well-being, but like, don't, you have to be fair to yourself too and true to yourself. And does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the simplified way to say that is just that an interracial relationship is like any other relationship in that it has challenges.
Well, sure.
Everyone has different things that they face.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be easy. I think what you're trying to say is that you're going to feel guilty no matter what because you feel responsible for me.
Yes.
So that's fair. I think anyone would feel that way. But what is not fair is that you shouldn't have to neglect your own feelings simply because I'm disabled.
Yeah, you shouldn't stay with someone just because they're disabled.
I'm disabled and I'm not ashamed that I'm disabled.
Right.
That's part of my identity and that's fine. I don't think people should separate that. Like, if you're in an interabled relationship, that's fine. Like, don't take that away from it and say, oh, we're just normal relationship. It's okay to say that.
No, because it is different.
Yeah. But I just mean, it's like you're still going to face challenges just like normal able-bodied people would.
Yeah.
So I think in this, what we're learning is that earlier we said, there's a breakdown in communication.
Yeah.
Something got lost in translation between both of them. and it's left him feeling like he's better off just being in a nursing home because then that takes the burden away from her.
Right.
Okay, and then that would make her resentment go away. Does that make sense?
And what we're seeing is an actual emotional struggle, not necessarily a physical struggle.
Yes.
So while she said she was exhausted by all the physical stuff, and that's true, I think what actually is the issue is the emotional stuff going on. And that can happen whether you're interabled or not. Because like you're saying, it's just normal people stuff.
And I think, like I said, my issue with that clip at the end we talked about earlier was that she said, you know, if I'll leave if I want to. And I don't have a problem with Dr. Phil saying you don't really mean that, because deep down she probably really doesn't mean that.
And that's why, But
it just felt like when watching that, she seemed so calm and saying that it seemed like that was a real conversation that they'd had.
Sure.
Like it seemed sincere, and then he had to go put his own spin on it and be like, well, you don't really mean that, do you? And it kind of felt manipulative, and maybe I'm reading that situation wrong. You guys can let me know in the comments. But to me, it just felt like she had her answer and he kind of just swept the rug out from under her a little bit.
Yeah, I think she's used to doing what a lot of caregivers probably do, which is, no, it's fine, and I want to be here, and I don't mind, because those things are true. And so I am used to saying those. They come out of my mouth pretty quickly when people ask me questions, but that doesn't mean they're not sincere. And I think she was sincere in that. However, I do think that probably, while Dr. Phil was aggressive with it, and I don't like the way he kind of fed it to her, like you're saying, like, oh, but like,
you don't really feel that way, right?
However, I do think that she probably needed to be given permission to say that she would feel guilty. Sure. But he did do it in a way that wasn't, I didn't like it so much.
She was led into an answer.
Yeah, for sure.
And that may just be a personal preference.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It just seemed like he was trying to keep her on the story of what he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I guess we should keep that in mind that it's TV. So.
It is. And I'm trying to be aware of that. They're going to play it up. They're going to be dramatic. Yeah. But these are real things that people go through, and that's why we wanted to talk about it and react to it or whatever.
Definitely.
And I know I'm probably coming off a little bit harsh in this, or I don't know, my opinions may seem a little bit, I don't know, different, intense. I don't know what word I'm looking for. But I think this is just stuff that it can so easily be misinterpreted, or I don't know. I feel like so many things can be held against the caregiver person in an unfair light. And I kind of thought, even just hearing about this episode when you were telling me about it, I kind of already had those judgments and like preconceptions of her, where I was like, oh, well, she's just being rotten. She should have known what she was getting into, and like, how dare she complain? And like I said earlier, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I don't want to judge her when I don't know, because I certainly don't like when people judge us when they don't know. So I want to be fair and understanding and like compassionate. And the more we watch, the more I'm understanding, of course, because that's how it works. Mm-hmm. But I want people to look at her and understand, you know, it is hard to have those feelings of guilt and feel, I guess, obligated.
I think a better word would be that she feels trapped.
Yeah. She seems that way. And that's definitely what Dr. Phil wanted to communicate, was that she is trapped in her relationship. And that's the thing I guess I wanted to say, and which we did say that you're not trapped in an interabled relationship. Don't let yourself get in that mindset of feeling trapped. Yeah, that's dangerous. Yeah, for any kind of relationship, really. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next set of clips, we're going to get two separate perspectives, one from the boyfriend, one from the girlfriend, and this will give us a better idea about why their relationship is having a hard time. You're going to learn where some of the feelings come in of why they're so angry with each other, why there seems to be resentment. And it's something every couple goes through. I know we went through periods of this too. So let's hear, we're going to start with the boyfriend. I can't remember his name. Bailey. It's Bailey. Okay, cool. So we'll start with his perspective, and then we'll move on to the girlfriend's perspective. And we'll discuss. Okay.
15 when the accident happened. I was getting ready for the biggest amateur motocross race in the world. The guy in front of me, he went around the outside of the turn, which is where you get the most speed. I went to the inside. The jump after it was about 136 foot long. So I preloaded, which is where you sit on the bike and you push the shocks down and it throws you further. But it threw me too far forward. I bailed off the bike. I landed on my head. The bike went its own way. Next thing I remember was my grandfather coming up to me. I tried to move. That's when I told my granddad, I said, I'm paralyzed, aren't I? I've spent 11 years trying my hardest to still have a life and still try to move forward, and nothing has worked.
Well, Bailey says 9 years after.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop there before we get into mostly discussion after this with Dr. Phil. Basically, you can see that his feelings of guilt and stuff come in because it was a self-inflicted injury, technically.
Yeah.
That's something I can't relate to as easily, because I didn't do it to myself. But like, I know for people that are paraplegic and quadriplegic, when it's accidents like that, I feel like there's a sense of guilt there that
You beat yourself up.
Yeah, and so I guess realistically, when you're in a relationship with someone, it's going to eventually come out there because you're going to eventually feel guilt with that person. Like, oh, why would you be with someone like me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like that probably comes into it a little bit.
Yeah, that's a foundation for self-hatred for sure.
Yeah.
I think with anything in life, anytime we fail and it's our fault, or get hurt and it's our fault, or anything bad that happens and it's our fault, or even if it just seems like our fault, like, because the thing too is that wasn't his fault. It was a freak accident.
Yeah.
Like, he was doing something that was dangerous and it could have happened to anyone, and he was 15. Like, he should not blame himself and he shouldn't beat himself up, but he clearly does. And when him talking about it, he still got emotional, and he's still, it seems like he hasn't moved on from it very much at all. And I don't think that there's a requirement to move on from it. I don't think you should ever get over it having MD or anything like that. I don't think there's like a specific goal to reach as far as how much you mature emotionally since your accident or since your diagnosis, because that's not realistic or fair. But it does seem like he just hasn't done any, or maybe a lot of work on himself since that, as far as emotional well-being, which is important. And I think that's something too that our society is starting to talk about more now, of going to a counselor or getting help for your mental health. But I think that's something that 15 years ago, back when he had his accident, that was not a thing we talked about. So he probably, maybe he did get therapy. Again, we don't know. But I guarantee that if that happened to someone today, the level of mental care that they would get today is not what he probably got 15 years ago. And that's sad, because that should have been a priority.
Would just not have considered.
Right, because even like insurance companies and healthcare professionals, that wasn't something talked about. It wasn't something that was like pushed as a priority. And I'm not saying he didn't try. He very well could have tried. But I know where society was at 15 years ago about mental health and seeing a counselor or talking to someone, and it wasn't in a good place.
And we're still fighting that fight.
Yeah.
Like, if you have trouble, go see a counselor.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. I mean,
No, I don't think
your
so.
brain is important.
And complicated. So yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we don't know what self-inflicted injuries can cause a brain to do. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's kind of torment, I'm sure.
Oh, I can't imagine.
So, all right. So we'll keep going with this clip. I think we're going to get in Dr. Phil's just asking her about that. And we'll keep going.
After his accident, things started to look up when he met his Harley. Now he says he senses constant resentment for her and feels like a burden to all of those around him, because everybody has to do for him, and he hates that. Take a look.
Before we get into that, I can speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
It does suck to feel like people have to do everything for you. Granted, my life, I'm not quadriplegic. I'm still functional in most of my muscles. So I'm at least able to get up and down. I can feed myself, dress myself for the most part. Sometimes I need your help. But in a lot of other areas, I need your help or I can't do it. And that is definitely something that's hard to deal with, knowing that, well, I got to ask Allie to do this. And sometimes I'll be like hesitant to ask, even though I should know better. It's just something that you feel like I'm better off just not having to ask, because you don't want to feel like you're a burden on someone.
Even tonight, setting up our microphone and getting ready to record this, he didn't want to ask me to go get microphone stands. And so we're just doing it differently. But he just didn't want to ask me to get up again. And it was fine. And I told him it was fine. But I also didn't argue because I understand that he just didn't want to ask me to do one more thing. And I appreciate that. But it's in little things like that, in little daily things that you wouldn't think about otherwise. But he's constantly thinking, because like for me, I wasn't thinking about, oh, it's one more thing. But for him, he notices and probably subconsciously keeps track of every little thing that I have to do for him, because he would much rather go get the microphone stands himself from the other room to do stuff. And so, yeah, it's cumbersome.
Yeah. And again, that's where the mental health story, he just needs to go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So maybe, despite what I think about what happened on the show and that it shouldn't have happened in public, I hope he got some help from this.
I hope so too.
So, yep, we'll keep going. We'll get his side of it.
Yeah.
Can you help me get in bed? And you were complaining about how you just wanted 5 minutes to sit down.
I wanted to relax and feel good.
My relationship with Harley is completely broken. It's just a one-sided relationship. Her doing things by herself and me just talking, annoying, and complaining. Her just telling me straight up, if you're a nag, just shut up, don't help me right now. When Harley has to help me, she gets angry. She has no control over herself. When we're in the vehicle, she just starts punching the steering wheel. One time, she just slammed on the brakes. I fell over. She really does scare me.
I'll raise my voice. I'll start swearing. He's getting irritated at me because I'm not doing something right.
She'll sweetly say, hey, do you know where I put my phone? No, baby, I'm not sure. And then she goes, every time she says, it's basically her telling me how much of a burden I am. The worst part about her anger is the fact that I'm the cause of it. In the beginning, she was carefree, bubbly, no anger whatsoever. Just so super understanding. That was literally my favorite thing about her. Our sex life was great. She really enjoyed it. She said it was the best she's ever had. Now we don't have sex. Before my accident, I was so confident, and now I hate everything about myself. I hate going places because I don't want people to look at me and how skinny I am. I have given up, and my only source of motivation now is Harley. Things can't continue this way. We also feel trapped, like we can't get away from each other. We're always angry. One of us would have to leave the other. Either she would leave me because she literally can't handle it, or I would have to leave her because I'm completely ruining her life.
I hate that last sentence that he says he's ruining her life.
Yeah.
Like that hurts me.
Yeah.
To hear.
Yeah. But you can tell it's authentic.
Oh, yeah.
So that tells me right there, like I said, we were talking about, they both feel trapped. And that's because they both were probably in over their heads more than they expected to be. Like I said, you can have an expectation that you know how things are going to go. Allie sure thought, oh, this is how things are going to happen. And they definitely happened a completely different way.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how disabilities work sometimes. You think, oh, man, it can't happen that way. Surely it won't be that bad. And then things happen and you're like, oh, okay, it is.
For us, it was that surely it won't happen that fast.
Yes.
I knew
true.
what his body probably would do. And I knew that I did have that gut feeling that he would be in a chair within 5 years. I said that, and I didn't mean to speak it into existence, but I had that feeling of, and I didn't know where it came from, of back when we had our daughter in 2014. I was like, you're going to be in a chair soon. And he always said, no. And I was like, I think it's going to be sooner than we think. And so we didn't want that and we didn't wish it, but it did happen. But your body did some stuff way faster than we expected. And I've had to start helping you in ways that I didn't think I would have to do for like another 10 or so years. And that's okay. But there was like a learning curve. There was a little period where we were like, whoa, this is a lot. And I think it felt overwhelming, and it can. And I think anytime your relationship has a shift or a change, you're going to have that again. And I think to be aware of it and kind of prepared for it, like know that you're going to have a time, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, just depending on what kind of like situation you're in, as far as like disease progression or anything like that. Just know and kind of have grace for each other, and like try to step outside of it as much as you can and look, like, you know what I mean? Like take a pause. And I always say this, be intentional and say things are shifting. Do I feel overwhelmed right now? Am I taking it out on Steven? Am I taking it out on the kids? Am I taking it out on, my friends, whatever? And just kind of like self-evaluate. And for me, what helps is having people like friends who hold me accountable. And they say to me, you seem really overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no. And they're like, no, you're acting crazy. You seem overwhelmed.
No, I get that.
And so it's people that I can be honest with, and they know both of us well enough and care about us both well enough to where they're not just my friend. They love Steven a lot. And so they know us both well enough to be able to pick up on when we're both having a hard time. And they share that with me when I may be acting a little bit, like emotional or even withdrawn, like when they're, you know what I mean? So that helps. And that's, again, we've talked about wanting to create a community and a support system for that, because it's important, you know? And I did have that question too, watching some of these of where are their friends? Where are their family? Like, I want to hear from other people of, do they have support? Do they have people they can talk to that can help where, you know, if she wanted to go off and do something, does she have someone who can help with him?
Yeah.
Or if he wanted to go off and do something on his own where she was busy, does he have someone he can rely on who can go to the mall with him or do, you know what I mean? Because that's so important. And of course, they're not going to talk about that in the show because it's about their relationship. But, you know, it takes a village to raise a kid, but it also, I think, takes a village to support an interabled relationship. So, you know.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway I have is just communicate. That's it. Like, if there's anything that's helped us, it's talking. Because there were times where I would get irritated with the way you were helping me, not because you were helping me wrong, but I hadn't explained it well enough to you. Like, I guess, like, the first time you had to help me, I don't know, get in the tub or something like that. Like, I had to explain to you, hey, I need you to lift my leg in this way because if not, I'll fall.
Right.
Like, I think that's the thing.
It was getting up the stairs. That's the time I remember the most.
That was frustrating for me.
Because I just, in my head, I was like, well, just let me lift your leg on to the next step. But that's not what you needed from me. But you didn't know, one, because you'd not ever done it before. So you didn't even know what you needed. And that's hard, too, because you're learning. Like, how are you supposed to tell me about your body when you're still learning about your body? So
that's true.
There's that. But yeah, so it was me having to not get frustrated. Yeah. Because I want to fix it and I just want to do it for you and I can't. Like, I have to be.
You're going to have those moments. It doesn't matter how good your relationship is. There's going to be something.
Sure.
So I think that's definitely the important thing. Just talk through it. Like, don't yell at each other, but talk through it. Because that's the only way you're going to understand each other.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on to the next one.
Okay.
And then after this clip, we're going to get into the one that Allie hasn't seen because it's the one that stirred up the most controversy. I mean, I think the video has like 5,000 some dislikes on it.
Oh, that's crazy.
So
this one I have seen, though.
Yeah. This is the one about Harley, I believe was her name.
It says, woman who swiped right on quadriplegic boyfriend says frustration with his condition is destroying their relationship.
All righty then.
I know, it's dramatic.
Well, it's
clickbaity, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, also remember when you watch these clips, they're dramatizations.
Oh, yeah.
So they're super dramatic. Just keep that in mind. They do tend to.
You mean this isn't a real documentary?
They tend to promote people in a different light. So here we go, guys.
She's got an attitude while she's helping me.
You don't have any sympathy for me.
Pick me up, put me in the bed, and turn me over.
No, you're in pain all the time.
She's being an
You want me to take them off?
Well, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. My relationship with Bailey is hard, frustrating, and exhausting. Bailey is a C5, C6 quadriplegic, and I am 100% his full-time caregiver. The problem that we're having is the frustration that we both feel because he's paralyzed, and we both take it out on each other.
You are being a bitch.
If I call you an one time, you
I don't
hold
care
it
if you
against
call me
me.
an ass. No, I
Oh,
don't.
you do. It's destroying our relationship. I met Bailey on a dating website. I saw his profile picture. He was really hot, so I swiped right. It said, I use a wheelchair to get around. Well, I'm very open-minded. He's attractive. I want to give it a shot. We fell for each other right away. I literally do everything for Bailey. I feed him, brush his teeth, clothe him, bathe him, laundry, food. Bailey feels so much guilt from having to rely on me. Bailey told me that he wants to give up. He wants to be put in a nursing home, and him losing just the will to live, it makes me scared that he will die. When I get angry and I'm frustrated and I've built up, I do whatever I can to just, I will say goodbye, I'll walk out the door, and I'll slam it. He's called me names. He's called me a stupid. bitch. He's flipped food at me. He's spat water in my face, and he has a justification for every single one of them. The breaking point was when I told him that I wasn't satisfied sexually. I expected to get comfort from Bailey, but what I got instead was anger. I love Bailey with all my heart. I'm caught between wanting to live this life with him and just making his life worse than it already is.
Okay, it's
So I looked up, which I knew what she said when she said he was a C5, C6 quadriplegic, but I know that's a categorization for different spinal cord injuries. But I just wanted to read a little bit about that for anyone who didn't know what that means, because I only know what that means from watching other YouTubers. So C1 to C4 has to do with high cervical nerves. So this has to do with where on your spine you're injured. Then low cervical nerves are going to be your C5 to C8. And basically what that means is depending on where the spinal cord was injured, depends on what part of your bodies are going to be affected, what parts of you are going to be paralyzed. So she said he was C5, C6. So he has like partial arm control, partial upper torso control. He'll need assistance with most activities. His nerves are affected. His digestive system and bowels are going to be affected. And then there's also other categories like T1 through T5, or I'm sorry, it's like like T1 through T12, which has to do with thoracic. Is that how you say that?
Yes, I believe so.
Thoracic vertebrae. Someone correct me. There's like lumbar categories, sacral nerve categories. And basically those are all just jargon for people who have been paralyzed in like the medical terminology. But it is helpful for knowing what to expect, having these kinds of like I literally just Googled it, and it's spinalinjury101.org is what I pulled up. But like if you have questions about someone you just met, like if you just made a friend and you find out they're a C5 level quadriplegic, you can Google C5 spinal cord injury and learn a lot about them just through that. So maybe that sounds silly, but I think it's important. If you don't know what a word means or like what that medical lingo means, just Google it. Like there's no harm.
It's important to know.
Because you understand that person better and what their needs are. Clearly, she learned it just like I've learned the terminology and stuff going around MD.
It also allows you to have some sense of empathy for
exactly.
all the needs that she has, like to care for.
So that's like some reference for this.
So basically, what we've learned is that their relationship's kind of what we would call toxic.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's like a high school relationship where it starts off super great. You're puppy love, you love it, and then the real stuff starts happening. Yeah. That's just part of it, unfortunately. I think that's something able-bodied people go through too. It's just the disability or the injury is the one thing that's easy to blame it on without talking about the real issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Like clearly they both have some resentment towards each other. So that's the issue that needs to be worked out. But instead it's, well, I'm just so tired from helping him with his disability. It's just so hard. Like it's a distraction basically. So they clearly needed to talk about that. And I hope they did. Yeah. Because the disability, I want to make sure it's known, was not the issue. That is not like, it's just a factor that exists. Like if you're disabled, don't think that means your partner has the right to blame that on you. Right. And vice versa. You don't get to blame your partner for having frustrations. Yeah. Like I used to feel that way every now and then. I get frustrated with Alex for being upset with me, but I eventually learned that's not a bad thing. She's allowed to have bad days, right? Yeah. Just like I'm allowed to have my bad days too, but we got to talk about it. Because here's the thing. He might have issues because he has muscular dystrophy. Yeah. I have issues because I have emotional damage from past relationships. So not exactly the same, but meaning things. I have my own things. Yeah. So he has to be patient with me when he gets frustrated because I'm having difficulty coping with whatever. And then I have to be patient with him when he's coping with his MD. So everyone has baggage. And I think it's easy to look at this physical thing because it's in your face. Yeah. And you don't have to search for it. Exactly. It's in your face. But in all reality, a lot of times when I get frustrated with his muscular dystrophy, it's
partly because of my own stuff. Like, it's just me projecting my own feelings, like you said, onto this issue.
Or it's me having difficulty explaining why I'm frustrated.
Right.
Like, I let my frustrations come out on you.
Sure.
In an unhealthy way where I'm like, I'm mad at you because of this, but it's really, I just haven't dealt with something on my end.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think so.
Okay. We'll get back and let Dr. Phil say what he wants to say.
It's good to meet you. Now, question. You're going through this dating app, and I mean, there's lots of guys there, and you're a young, single, attractive female. Out of all of the people that you could choose, why choose someone in a wheelchair?
I don't like that question.
It's not so much that he was in a wheelchair, it's him personally. He pushed me more.
When you started talking, did he say things that encouraged you to continue, or did he say things like, you don't want this, get out of here?
He would say things like, you don't want to be in this. And he's still like that to this day. He does not understand why I want to date him.
Okay, so he's warning you off, essentially.
He's warning me off since the beginning. I just was very naive about it.
Okay, and if you knew then what you know now, would you have gotten in this relationship?
I would have gotten into this relationship. The reason we're working this hard is so we can make it work. We make each other happy.
Okay. So
I don't like that he asked her that twice.
No, I don't like that question either, but I think he had a reason behind it. He was trying to say, like, he was trying to get across the message that even though he's in a wheelchair and she knows what she knows now, she would still choose to be with him because she loves him. He was trying to get that across, that even though he's in a wheelchair, she still pursued it. She still, even if she knew that now, she would still do it because she loves him. It was supposed to, he was trying to do a good thing, but I get where it comes off negative because it's like, that's a stigma that if you're in a wheelchair, people aren't going to want to date you. And that's not far from the truth.
No.
But it's kind of like 50-50 for me. Nowadays, I don't think as many people care about that. I think there are enough good relationships of interabled couples that's not as taboo anymore. Mm-hmm. I think people nowadays are more open, and they're, like, for the most part, they are. Yeah. Like, our society is trying to progress.
I agree.
But I do get where that question would rub you the wrong way because you never saw me as disabled. I know Shane said before in Squirmy and Grubs that he doesn't like that term because that's part of his identity. He is disabled. I am too. So I get that. But I know for you, that wasn't what you looked for. Like, you looked past that.
I didn't date you because you were disabled, but I also...
You would not have not dated me.
Right.
Because of
it just wasn't a factor for me. I dated you for who you are as a person.
I think our society tries to focus on that too much, where it's you're such a hero for dating him. Like, I hate that. I can't. Wow, what a good job. I just love how you love him. And
like I'm doing you a service.
Exactly. And I don't like that. That's where I can see where that question bothers you. Because it's like, you're not doing me a favor. You actually like me. Or
as if having difficulties related to your disability would make me love you less, which is kind of how that question came off to me. Would you do it now that you know how hard it is? Would you still do it? And it's like, yes, because love doesn't change just because things are difficult.
Yeah, love shouldn't change, exactly.
If it's love, if it's real love, then it won't go away. It might change because I think love does evolve and grow
love
or
can
whatever.
Get deeper over time,
right.
Yes.
But I don't think if it's real love, then disability shouldn't affect that for someone.
No, and it shouldn't. And if it does, you need to have a talk with that person. Yeah.
And speaking of just talking, I wanted to, with the little bit we watched before, the clip ended where she said, when she told him that she wasn't sexually satisfied, that was the breaking point.
Oh, yeah. That'll do it.
That to me, and I said before when we watched this clip of, yes, that is absolutely fair for him to just be absolutely angry and caught off guard and upset if all of a sudden one day she was loving it and said it's the best thing she's ever had. And then all of a sudden the next day she's like, oh, I'm not satisfied. That's not fair. You can't just flip the script on somebody like that and just drop that bomb of I've been faking or pretending, or I've led you to believe one thing, but really I'm miserable and I hate it. I think that either the show is not portraying correctly, where, he probably, because in reality, he probably was aware that things were not great. He said that they weren't having sex at all. So he probably knew then that she wasn't sexually satisfied.
But it's different when someone straight up says it to
that's
you.
the thing. And I think that it's got to be done in such a way that's careful and delicate, but you also can't wait until you're just not happy anymore. As soon as you notice that things are awkward or difficult, or if you're having troubles in your sexual relationship, if you aren't satisfied in either way, whichever partner it is, because it could be the disabled person isn't satisfied anymore because their body's not doing things the way that it should, or it could be the able person isn't satisfied because they're literally just not able to participate in sex with someone, whatever. But you have to communicate that from the moment that it starts to feel weird, or the moment you start to feel a lacking or just not being satisfied. You can't wait till it's really bad, because then you're not really going to be able to resolve it. And then there's so much tension there that it's hard to even get back to intimacy at all. Because at that point, hugging is going to feel weird. Holding hands is going to feel weird. It's like the stereotypical couple in the movies who says, oh, we haven't had sex in 20 years. And then they don't even know how to sit next to each other and hold hands because you've broken that intimacy connection. So if you're starting to notice that you're not enjoying intimacy with your partner, you got to talk about it early on so that it's not dropping a bomb on someone.
So it doesn't lead to that.
Because then it crushes you. Like that would crush me if you told me that out of nowhere.
Said, it led to, she felt like she wasn't heard, and then he felt just angry.
Right. Yeah. And I would be angry too if it came out of nowhere.
It's hard not to as a disabled person, because you feel like, I can't control my situation, so how dare you say that to me? Like,
right. Exactly.
But you can't also have that attitude. It's a catch-22, because
it just depends on how
you
it's
have
handled.
I have to be open to your needs, and also like aware of mine. Like, I can't be angry at you if you're not getting what you need.
Yes, but if I don't communicate that with you, then it's
that's
not
fine.
fair.
If you don't communicate, I'm saying, but even if you did communicate with me, I still can't. I don't feel like I have the full right to be angry. Like, you're at least being honest with me.
Well, see, that's the difference, though. If I was communicating with you, I don't think you would be angry.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Because it would be presented to you in a way of, hey, this isn't quite normal. Yeah. Can we fix it? Rather than, you're not enough for me.
And
like, there's just a difference.
If you're struggling with that, you should try things together, talk about it.
I think so, too.
Hey, let's try this assistive tool that could help with this. Like, there are ways. I know with spinal injuries, it's really hard because, like, it's hard to be intimate sometimes.
Because then it's not just muscle function, but your nerves don't cooperate. So that means sensations are going to change. Yeah, it's difficult.
So it's a lot of issues. Refer back to, if you guys check out our episode before this, we kind of went into that towards the end of that episode, talking about sex with a disability and things like that. So yeah, y'all definitely go back to that if you can. We'll have that video linked for you. And if you're listening on podcast, just go one episode back.
A big takeaway from it, though, that if it's okay to reiterate, is that is something, too, that I think that as an able-bodied person, you need to do some research and know what to expect. That way you're not setting your expectations at an unrealistic level. And it's something that you need to talk about very early on. Now, if you're not planning on having sex for a long time in your relationship, great, good for you, but you still need to talk about it. And so it might be weird, might be uncomfortable and awkward, once you've been dating for, I don't know, a week, however, you know what I mean? Like, you're the judge of when that happens in your relationship. But for us, we didn't really talk about how things would work until we started getting into that part of our relationship. But we did talk about it. I did ask questions, and it was a little bit weird for me to say, hey, can we do this? Or can we do this way? Is this going to hurt you? Those are things that you have to talk about, and talk about them early on. That way you lessen the likelihood of having issues in the future. Am I saying that well enough?
No, I get what you're saying. It's just, like we said, you're probably tired of hearing it. Communication is key.
Yeah,
you have to talk, especially if you're in an interabled relationship, because that's all you have. You have to trust each other.
Yeah.
So if you've got to talk the kinks out, like we said in previous episodes, we talked about things way sooner than we thought.
Right.
And we got it all out there, and it helped us in the long run.
It did, for sure.
So
yeah,
let's get into the one clip you haven't seen.
Okay.
And
I'm anxious.
This clip deals with something Dr. Phil said that
you're going to need.
I'll give you some context before we talk about it. You can kind of see from the title of the video. He basically gave her a choice here of how to fix this relationship. And this rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It pissed me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I think it's bull. We'll get into that and talk about it. But basically, that's what's happening here. He's trying to give them advice. In my opinion, he gave them bad advice, but I'll let you guys be the judge.
You need to make a choice for me, and you're going to need to make it today. You can be his caregiver, or you can be his lover. You can't be both.
Right. I'm going to be his lover. I am. I'm going to be his girlfriend. I'm going to be his support. I want to be his happy place, and I want him to be mine.
You can't be both. Now, you might want to be both. You might want her to be both because you're saying, I don't want a stranger coming in here. I want somebody that I'm comfortable with, intimate with, and know. But there are other ways to go about this. Like I say, I've been doing this a long time. I know how to make this work elsewise. But if she remains your caregiver, she won't be your girlfriend. This won't work. It won't kind of not work. It won't work. 100 out of 100 times, this won't work. You will get frustrated with her. She will get frustrated with you. She can be your lover or she can be your caretaker. She can't be both. Which would you prefer? If what I'm saying is true, which would you prefer?
I would much rather have her as my girlfriend, my lover.
So you'd rather have her to be a partner with you, a relationship partner, and somebody that you can laugh with and love with and share things with, but not somebody that's a taskmaster.
Correct. And it wasn't really by choice. I mean, from the beginning, I told her I didn't want her to be my caretaker, that if it did happen, she would start to resent me. From the very beginning, I told her this would start to happen. It wasn't my choice. It's just where we live. We live so far from any kind of caretaker that would, and the ones that we do have access to,
They don't.
they're no good.
Well, they're
not
skilled.
reliable. They're
Well, not really caretakers.
not qualified at all.
So you got this job by default.
Yeah, it was at first he had some caregivers come and he was taken care of, and then one lady stopped showing up, so I'd pick up a shift here or there, and then we wanted to take the stress off of his grandma, so I started to visit him in the middle of the night to turn him and take care of him, and then from there it was the morning shift and the afternoon shift and then the night shift, and now here we are. I'm 24/7.
How would it change y'all's relationship if you did not have that burden on the two of you? If you weren't the caregiver, if what you had to do was just be in a relationship, share things, watch movies, talk about books, laugh, cut up, support him in some of the things he's getting ready to start doing that he doesn't know about yet. But just to be a supporter, to just be somebody that loves him and believes in him and supports what he does.
That sounds so easy and it sounds so simple, but in order for him to be taken care of like that, it really is demanding on him. And I feel like it's
not your job. It's not
right.
your job. Your job, you're either going to be his girlfriend, his lover, or his caretaker. That's not your job. And by the way, it's way above your pay grade. You're not skilled for that either.
It's true. It's true.
You weren't trained for this. You don't know how to do it. And you're not coping well, and you're running it off in the ditch.
It's true.
Good effort, and your heart was in the right place.
So that's the thing that got people stirred up. Let me preface this because I did see a lot of people say the 100 out of 100. They took that as, I think a lot of people took that, and I think I did too originally, as him saying 100 out of 100 interable relationships don't work. And that's not what he said re-listening there. He was saying 100 out of 100 times this relationship will not work like this.
The way
which
they're
is still
with
wrong.
each other.
It's still wrong, but I get what he was saying. He's saying 100 out of 100 times it won't work, as in she can't be your caregiver and your girlfriend. Like he was saying 100 out of 100 times that's not going to work in your relationship.
The way they're toxic with each other.
But I think some people took that as he meant 100 out of 100 interrelated. That won't work in any of them.
I mean, he kind of made it sound that way.
It sounded that way, but re-listening in context, that's what he meant. That's what he meant. He meant in this relationship, 100 out of 100 times it's not going to happen. He was trying to get it through to him that no matter what you do, this is not going to work. Which, again, that's the only part that I'm kind of like, okay, I see where that was.
Well, he did say
he put it in with the you can't be a caregiver and a girlfriend, and that's wrong.
That's my thing. He did say, like, you should not, that's not your job. You shouldn't be doing any of that.
And he's right. It's not her job, but, like, she's not paid to do it. It's not her job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something she's paid to do.
I get that.
But, like, I get that one aspect of, it's not your job to take care of him. No, it's not. You do it because you love them.
Sure.
Okay? So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. You're fine. I I think that we said earlier that it's toxic. Their relationship, they're not doing things the way you should when you're in an interabled relationship. He is a grown man. Bailey is, and he could be managing his own medications. Maybe he can't put them in his own mouth, but he can keep track of it. He can keep track of what he needs to eat and when. He can, you know what I'm saying? Like, he does need to be accountable for himself, and you can tell through watching some clips that he's never really, it appears, I'm not saying he hasn't, I don't want to give matter-of-fact statements here, I don't mean to do that, but it appears like his reactions tell me that he's not ever had someone hold him accountable and say, hey, put on your big boy pants and stop wallowing. And that is not fun to hear as an able-bodied person. I can't imagine that's fun to hear as a disabled person.
And it's also tough for you to judge because we, again, are watching dramatizations where we don't know what a producer told him to do.
Right.
Like, we don't.
Yeah, did they tell him to cry or get
we don't know if he was
or...
under pressure with cameras there. Yeah,
sure, absolutely. And that's something I don't want it to be matter of fact, but through the clips, it made it seem like he doesn't do anything. Like, she even made it sound like, oh, he just watches movies all day. I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure it's not. And that's something too, that like, if you are disabled and you find yourself where you're not doing anything during the day, you're going to be miserable and you're going to resent yourself, because an able-bodied person who has nothing to do and feels like you don't have anything to contribute or have a purpose, you're going to be depressed and miserable. So you got to find something to do, whether it's a hobby or if you can find something that can make you a little bit of money, do it. It makes a big difference. Like you said, you have been there, and
I've been there. Yeah.
And that will cause relationship tensions.
It does. We've been there.
Me being the main moneymaker in our relationship is okay now, and even though he gets money through disability, that's still
it's not enough
to him. That wasn't contributing because he wasn't earning it.
Yeah.
So that was a tension in our relationship because he felt like he wasn't contributing, which I never felt that way. But I get where you felt that way yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that this guy probably feels that way because he in the job, he said he didn't have a job. He wasn't, like he doesn't do anything. So that's a big part of it. You're not going to feel good about yourself if you don't feel like you're contributing.
I can speak to that, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was, we live in the South in the United States. So you're raised that the husband does everything.
Yeah.
Like, the husband is the breadwinner. The wife, my mom worked when I was a kid, but I knew my dad was the one that brought home, the most money, whatever. It was how it goes. Right. And, so that was for me, that's what I was raised and taught. So when I couldn't do that anymore, it made me very, depressed, and it made me take it out on Allie. But eventually we got through that tough spot. I started writing for a Braves blog. I started doing vocal covers on YouTube that I do, and things like that have made me feel like, okay, cool. I have something to look forward to do.
And it's something that's his.
It's mine. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing is that it's mine.
We serve in church together. So he did that. He volunteered. He had stuff that he does, and we had stuff that we do together in that way, like leading a small group or doing whatever. But it was something that was completely his, that not that I wasn't involved in it, because I support you in that. Not that I don't do it with you. I don't do screaming metal vocals with you.
Yes.
But I'm for it. But that's his thing that he can have control of. And he's the expert in it. And that sounds so silly and simple, but it makes such a huge difference.
It does, when you feel like you are contributing something to yourself.
And something you care about and you're interested in.
It just feels different. Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to explain it. It feels different to have something that's you're bringing to the you don't feel like you're just existing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you feel like you have some purpose or something to do.
Yeah.
So we'll end on this last point. We'll just get to his question, or what choice he gave her. Can you be both? Can you be a caregiver and a lover, or can you only be one? What do you think? I know my opinion.
I know that I'm not going to stop viewing you in a romantic way when I have to care for you even more.
Yeah.
Because that hasn't changed now.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that was a fair question, or was that good advice? Because to me,
I think it is a loaded question. I think to just put it so simply, like you have to choose today, it's one or the other. There's no
and to
gray
do that
area.
on television.
That's not realistic. Yeah, that was shock factor. That was just a big, whatever.
Honestly, I'm starting to think they did this video just to tick everyone off.
I mean, it works because we're talking about it.
A year later at that. It gets me because, like you said, it is a loaded question. How can you tell someone you can't be both? I get where he was trying to come from because the way they framed it in this entire episode, that's what I think happened. The producers framed this in a certain way. They wanted it to be that's how they got clicks. That's how they got people to watch.
Yeah.
They wanted them to think, oh, his disability is just weighing on her. She just can't handle it. Yeah. When we watched there, she was still doing stuff for him. She obviously didn't mind doing it, but they made it frame like she was this victim and then made it seem like he was just going to kill himself. So they framed it in a way where all Dr. Phil had to say, well, you just can't be both.
Right.
It's obviously too hard for you. And I think that's bad advice.
Now, I think that there are going to be, it's going to be different for every relationship.
That's
and
true.
maybe there's a relationship, maybe it's where there are certain people who cannot be both. And I think that it depends on the person. And here's the thing. There's no shame in that. If you know yourself and both you and your partner are okay with that and want that, to have a caretaker come in, if you know that emotionally you aren't able to give that, and I'm not saying that you're like emotionally incapable. I'm just saying everyone is different. And I'm sitting here saying that, oh, I'm going to be able to do it and it's fine. I don't know. 20 years from now, I may need help. I may say, you know what? I want help because this is too much.
If it's too physically hard for you, that I feel like is understandable.
And I think that was interesting too, because she was a small person as well, and she all of a sudden took on all of this physical stuff that, like Dr. Phil said, she wasn't trained to do. She's not a nurse, but now all of a sudden she was catheterizing him and doing all this stuff, and that is a lot on a person. And to just suddenly take it on,
and that's fair, but I think you weren't trained to help me either, but yet you looked up ways and you helped me.
Yeah, I'm not
and
saying
she
you
clearly
can't.
did it too.
No, she did.
And so I think that's where I got upset, was that yes, she can. She proved she can caregive for him. What we didn't get to the root to, and I don't know if it's in the full episode or not, we won't know, is that they didn't get to the root. Like, there is a video of him talking to how Allie didn't want to play it because it kind of feels
it made me
hurtful to Bailey, how, maybe you could stop being such a jerk. And it's like, that didn't help. Like, you didn't solve the problem. Like, maybe he got through to her. I don't know. But basically,
he was holding him accountable for his part in the emotional damage of the relationship.
And that's fine.
And it's fine that Dr. Phil did that. And I think he should, because I've had to say to Steven, tough love, I'm sorry you're upset, but you have MD, and it's, and like things I've said where this is part of it and you have to figure out how to deal with it. And that's not me saying, I don't understand or have empathy, but that's me saying, okay, we've got to deal with this feeling you're having, and we can't just sit in it and be upset. Like, we've got to figure out how to cope with it or move on from it or resolve it, whatever, but we can't just feel bad about it all the time. Now, are you allowed to feel bad about it? Absolutely. And there are some days where you're just going to have bad days, and that's fine. Be upset, be angry, be sad, cry, yell, whatever. But we can't be that way all the time. And that's kind of how this guy, again, this is how the producers made it look through all their editing, was that he was just upset all the time. And he even said that he was angry all the time and upset, and he just wanted to.
Feeling. I felt
exactly.
that way.
And I get that. And that's not invalid. But the way Dr. Phil was talking to him about it was just really harsh. And I think it made me uncomfortable because it was in front of an audience and he was just kind of grilling this guy. And I didn't feel bad for him because he was handicapped. I would feel bad if Dr. Phil was questioning anyone that harshly, because it's in front of people and you're putting them on blast. And I know they chose to go on the show and they probably got compensated for going on the show, but that's still, it just was uncool.
Yeah.
The way he was like, you can't tell me I don't get it. And I didn't like it.
I'm just not a fan of someone saying you can't do this or this, because I think that's a lie. We've made it work. You are my caregiver in some ways, and you are also my wife.
Yeah.
And you can do both.
Uh-huh.
I'm never going to say you can't do both, because when you love someone enough, you're going to caregive for them. It won't bother you. Like, and deep down, let's be honest, you don't mind helping me because you do love me.
Well, absolutely.
So because I'm your husband and you love me, you're going to care for me.
Sure.
Like, those two things kind of go hand in hand. I'm not saying you have to just suck it up because they have a disability. I don't want that
No.
to get misconstrued. But what I am saying is that if you love someone that's disabled, you can take care of them and love them at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't have to have training for that. That's crap.
No. And it's just what it is, though. I think it's just, again, and I've said it like 5 times now, I'm sorry. Just you have to know what you're getting into. You have to have good, realistic expectations for yourself and for your partner, and give yourself a grace period where maybe if you're going from a situation where your partner had a caregiver and had like medical help and you're going to take over, see if you can work out a situation where for a couple weeks you work with the caregiver and learn and figure out a system that works for you, that doesn't put a strain on your relationship, and then be okay if it doesn't work and you say, you know what, I'm not ready for that, because that's when they get in trouble like this. They weren't ready to transition into that in their relationship.
Yes.
We are in a really lucky situation where he has muscular dystrophy. He's not a quadriplegic. So I'm able to ease into caregiving. And that's why I think it has been easy for us, because it has been gradual. It's not like I had to jump in and flip from being gushy and romantic to all of a sudden doing everything for you. I'm able to ease into it so we can kind of incorporate the caregiving into our regular routine. Like I understand that we're unique and lucky in that way. But it is also easy to look at other people and say, you know what, you just got to give yourself a transition. Yeah. And I think there's no shame if you don't want to do that, that's fine. If you want to have a caregiver work with you, if you want to have medical help or a nurse come in and help, or if you live with family, that's fine. There's absolutely no shame in that, because then at least it's honest and it's healthy. And I think that's the whole point of it. Yeah. But what Stephen, I agree with you. What you're saying is it is possible, though. If you want to be a full-time caregiver and also be romantic with your partner, you absolutely can. And you shouldn't let someone else tell you what you're capable of, because only you know. And I think, like you said, when you love someone, you'll work hard and you'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I
just meant that if you love someone, it's going to come easy to take care of them. You will find a way to do what they need. Mm-hmm. Like it will come easy. Like I just felt like that was bad advice, because he should have encouraged them, and I don't think he encouraged them.
Yeah, I know that romantic love is different than like the love we have for our children, but it does make me think of that. Like when your children are hurt, if your child suddenly has a disability and you need to help them, you don't stop loving them the same way just because now you have to take care of them more. Like I've heard stories of so many parents, and I do want to talk to parents of children who have disabilities, because you fight for those children the same way you would, probably harder, and you make it work. You adjust your whole life around it to do what that kid needs. And it's not, maybe it feels like a burden sometimes, but it doesn't make you love them less. You don't consider yourself any different kind of parent. And I think it's the same. Like I'm a wife just like anyone else is a wife. Like it's just, you do it, like you said, out of love. Like love, not love isn't all you need, but it's a big,
no one could ever train you for that. No one could ever. That's why that comment bothers me. Is just you can't expect someone to be trained for that. It's the whole reason it's.
Well, I mean, you can get taught how to do a catheter. You can get taught how to do certain things.
Well, see, but for certain people, they can't do it, so the caregiver has to do it.
That's what I mean. Like she could have been shown that by someone. That would have been great, probably.
And I'm sure she had to. But I guess to sum it all up, it bothers me mainly that they didn't even get to the root of the issue. Yes, he told him he was being kind of a jerk. They both weren't being great to each other. At the end of the day, he told them you can be his caregiver or his girlfriend, and that's it.
Yeah, not that they can work through stuff.
Like the root of the issue wasn't taken care of. It wasn't, hey, you guys should try to talk this out so you can be nicer to each other. Yeah. Hey, you got some resentment you need to work out. Why don't you go see a therapist? Like, I understand he's considered a therapist, but he's also an entertainer. So. Yes.
I feel like the message he was then giving to Bailey, the disabled guy, was you're too much for one person to handle.
Yes, and indirectly, that's exactly what he said. Yeah. And I don't know Dr. Phil. He might be a really great guy. I'm not going to judge him, because again, I don't know him.
It's TV.
It's TV though, so obviously I have to just
take it for what we saw. Yeah,
but indirectly, you're right. He that's the kind of the message I got to. It was like, she can't do all this for you. He literally drove in, you're a burden. Like, he told him that he understood that he knows that Bailey feels like a burden, but then he basically said things that said, you are a burden. She can't take care of you and be your girlfriend.
Well, that also came off the heels of we saw him ask the question of, out of all the people on this app, why did you choose someone in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
As in, why would you choose that? And it just, I don't know. It just, the whole frame of it, I didn't like because it gave room for the question of, well, how can I really be attracted to you if you're in a wheelchair? And it's like, or how Bailey had the insecurity of, I'm not enough for her and you need to just go find someone better because I know you have struggled, said those things to me.
Of course, yeah. We talked about it in the previous episodes, yeah.
And I don't like that. I don't like that kind of fed into that of, well, you can't be both. You can't accept his disability and be romantically involved or, whatever with him. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Like it can drive home the idea to him that, you're too much and that, she can't just love you and take care of you.
Right.
And that's not a good feeling to have.
No.
It's not.
And it even made her emotional. Like you could tell she didn't like it. She didn't like that question.
No, it's just not, it wasn't fair. So yeah, that's our thoughts on that. I know we're a year late on it, but I just...
But I've never heard of this episode, so I thought maybe other people hadn't heard of it as well.
No, and it's fine. Like, it needs to be talked about. This is definitely something that I think is not unique. I know there are other couples that are probably struggling with the same stuff, and if you're one of them, just be encouraged that it doesn't have to be like this episode. You can get through it. You just have to talk. Literally just talk to each other.
Go to counseling together.
Yeah.
Please. Go talk to someone who is unbiased, who's outside of your relationship. Talk to counselors separately, but also see one together. Like, there's no shame in that. And it can get expensive, but there's like BetterHelp. There's something wellness. There like online ones that are a little bit cheaper, where you can do virtual stuff or like email correspondence, things like that. But try to find someone to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to end this one. Just be like, if you're going through something tough, just talk.
Yeah.
If you need anyone to talk to, we have an email. It's linked in the description. It'll be on the screen here probably for you. Just email us.
Yeah.
Comment down below. Let us be thinking about you. Let's have community. That's the only way things like this get better. Let's break the misconception that you can't be a caregiver and a spouse.
And let's also break the cycle of shame that comes with feeling like you can't handle it or not being good at it or not knowing what to do. Like you don't have to feel bad about that. Or the shame
that you shouldn't be able to say something because you're a caregiver.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have to feel ashamed because you are struggling.
That's okay.
Like you can be disabled and struggle, and you can be not disabled and struggle. Like it's not one or the other.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Like, you're allowed to feel bad about it. Like just talk. That's my main point. Just talk.
Yeah. Yeah, and just remember you love each other. Like remember, just remember the things that are outside of the disability, because like you said, it is part of who you are, and that's fine, but it's not all of who you are. Yeah. And I think that's important for you to remember, and also for me to remember that I'm not just your caregiver, which I don't really struggle with that so much anymore, but there was a little season where I felt like I was just taking care of you. And we got back to a place of, it wasn't just that. It didn't consume our every thought and everything.
Yeah.
And again, part of that was our community helping us, but
and we talked.
Yeah. And it wasn't always pretty, and you're going to fight, and it's okay to be angry, but don't sit in that anger and let that anger be the dominant feeling. And usually I learned too, in one of my counseling classes, that anger is usually a secondary emotion, that usually it is just the result of another emotion. Now, anger can exist on its own. I'm not saying it can't, but usually anger is actually an outward expression of fear or even sadness or grief. We know that it's one of the stages of grief. But anger usually just comes as a result of something else. And I know for me, anger comes out of my anxiety typically, whether that's anxiety about Stephen's MD, or if it's anxiety about other stuff. I will lash out, and I'm getting better at identifying that, but not always, because I kind of just figured that out about myself. But just know that too. And that was clear in their relationship. He was angry because he was broken about it. Like he was hurt. And I think she was angry because she just felt out of control. And so know that too. Try to get to the root of what is it. Like you're feeling angry, but what's actually happening in the root of it.
Yeah.
I think that helps with a lot of stuff. Even just normal, I say normal, not disabled, interabled relationships. So.
Yeah, I think that's all good points.
This was a lot.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys for listening, and we appreciate your support through this podcast and this YouTube channel so far. comment if you're watching on YouTube. Comment some ideas of things you want to hear. Ask us some questions. We want to get some Q&As out there.
Are there other videos that you may want us to react to?
Yeah, let us know.
Things
Link
like that. Mm-hmm.
Link them below in the comments. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or however you're listening to the podcast, email us at Teal Death Do Us Part Podcast at gmail.com.
Yep.
Send us your ideas, anything you have. We want to be able to give you guys content you want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and what's your Instagram handle, babe?
My Instagram handle on Instagram, I'll put it up on the screen here. Steven on Instagram at RealTeal09.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Allison Victoria Teal. It'll be up on the screen too. That's if you want to get to know us a little bit better. Check us out on Instagram. We post about obviously ourselves, but we also post about our kids and our family, and we'd love to get to know you. So check us out on Instagram and hang out with us. And
we just want to make sure you guys are getting like everything you want out of this. So
sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for another hopefully good episode. I hope you enjoyed it.
It was different. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a good time. But we'll see you guys next time, and join us next week on Teal Death Do Us Part. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, it's Steven. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us here on YouTube on Teal Death Do Us Part and listening on our podcast as well by the same name. You guys don't know how much impact you've had on us. This has been such a good time for us, and we've enjoyed just having these good discussions on these important topics that surround interabled couples and relationships in general. We really appreciate you guys' support. It's been overwhelming. Many of you are subscribed on YouTube. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Make sure you like our videos. You share them with your friends. Comment content that you want to hear. That's what we want to know. We want to know what you guys want to know. We want to make sure we're getting valuable information to you and things that you want to know about. So please comment. And if you don't watch our YouTube videos, that's fine. Email us at Teal Death Do Us Part Podcast at gmail.com, and we will be sure to see those emails. We will get those in there. We want to do some frequently asked question videos for you guys in the future, and that's the best way for us to do it. So comment on YouTube, send us some emails, and we just really want to hear from you guys because we want to deliver content you want to see. And again, we can't thank you enough for the support, and we'll see you guys next time on Teal Death Do Us Part. Thanks again. You guys have a great week.